Sayın Bakanım, ben izninizle başlıyorum. Bundan sonra katılımlar olacaktır. Sayın Dışişleri Bakanım, çok değerli katılımcılar, değerli yönetim kurulu üyelerimiz, iş konseyi başkanlarımız, sizleri DEİK ve şahsım adına saygıyla selamlıyor, sağlıklı günler diliyorum. Dün Hazine ve Maliye Bakanımız Sayın Berat Albayrak ile ekonomi gündemimizi değerlendirdik. Bugün değerli Dışişleri Bakanımızla birlikteyiz. Yarın da Ticaret Bakanımızla tekrar birlikte olacağız. İçinde bulunduğumuz salgın sürecinde başta Sayın Cumhurbaşkanımız olmak üzere iş dünyamızı bu sürece, istişare sürecine dahil ettikleri için bakanlarımıza ve bugün hasreten birlikte olan Sayın Dışişleri Bakanımıza, DEİK ailemiz adına teşekkür ediyorum. Ben kısa bir giriş yaptıktan sonra Sayın Bakanımızdan salgın sonrası dönemde ülkelerin dış politikalarının nasıl şekillenebileceğini ve bize yönelik olarak da bu süreçte mottosu ticari diplomasi olan DEİK'in üzerine düşenleri konuşacağız ve üyelerimizin sorularıyla devam edeceğiz. İzninizle ben bu süreçte DEİK'te neler yaptığımızı birkaç cümleyle ifade etmek istiyorum. Biz ilk günden itibaren işlerimizi askıya almıyoruz. İşletmelerimizin ve istihdamımızın sağlığını koruyoruz diye yola devam ettik. Buradaki işlerimizi askıya almıyoruz ifadesi önemliydi. Çünkü kafalar karışıktı. İş yerlerini uzun süre kapatalım mı, uzun süre sokağa çıkma yasakları olsun mu konuşuluyordu. Halbuki böylesi bir durum sadece işletmeleri değil, hane halkını da etkileyen bambaşka olumsuzluklara yol açabilirdi. Devletimizin destekleriyle
thanks to the support mechanisms offered by the state, by our government, by our administration, we were able not to stop the predators of our economy, and the winners of this new era will be those who will not disrupt the chains of supply and who inspire trust in their stakeholders. And Turkey has been doing exceptionally well in these difficult times. We have had opportunities to bring together our members, our counterparts, our consuls general. We've had many business council meetings via webcasts and meetings of this kind. And we have been communicating the findings of these meetings, of these get-togethers to our ministries. Mr. Minister, so far we have had around 150 meetings and webinars. You always tell us that ambassadors and consuls general are representatives, and that they would always be ready to back us, and thankfully they've done that. Throughout this process, though, they have acted like members of Foreign Economic Relations Board or heads of business councils. They have participated without any disruption um, to all our meetings, and they have given us latest information that they had, and they have reiterated their commitment to support us. We have had the opportunity to discuss healthcare, economics in the current state of affairs in many countries around the world, and the fact that we have such an army of diplomats is such a great source of pride for us. And on behalf of DEİK, on behalf of myself, I'd like to thank you and the entire Ministry of Foreign Affairs for this invaluable support. I also chair the World Turkish Business Council. We also get together there with our counterparts in other countries, and we dedicate a lot of importance to our diaspora. And I also have a word of thanks to you regarding this, because in terms of repatriating Turkish citizens abroad during the pandemic, you have done exceptionally well, and many nations around the world. And for that, we are grateful to you. As the business world, we are ready and willing to be a dedicated team player during the normalization process as well. We will continue to work with our country. Thank you so much once again for your participation. You have the floor now, Mr. Minister. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, esteemed members of DEİK, Foreign Economic Relations Board. Yes, we are going through difficult times, but you as DEİK are adding power to our strengths, even at such difficult times. I'm delighted to be here with you today. Mr. Chair, Mr. Olpak, I'd like to thank you very much for your kind invitation. Mr. Chair, our ministry and members of our ministry, you have said very nice things about us. And yes, we are going through difficult times, but we always dedicate great importance to liaising with you and supporting one another. And hopefully, we are going to maintain this spirit of cooperation in days to come. Yes, the world is going through difficult times indeed. Yes, there are many fragilities across the globe. Yes, this pandemic is having a negative impact on all walks of life on a global scale. We are going through an unprecedented crisis, and you also see this to be the case. Up until today, we have lost around 4,000 citizens, and more than 500 citizens of Turkey unfortunately lost their lives in other countries around the world. Once again, I'd like to take this opportunity to wish them, offer them my condolences to their families. And only cargo flights are permitted. As we speak, we have charter flights to bring back our citizens, but in terms of sending, we also make sure that we have families who want to bring their dead to Turkey. Even if family members cannot come to Turkey, we take care of the funeral procedures. Yes, this pandemic is also wreaking havoc in terms of economy all across the world, and you also feel the implications of this. Factories, businesses, and also the flights have come to a halt, and borders have been shut. And this economic crunch is actually much deeper than the one we had in 2008. WHO and WTO say that the global economy will shrink, global trade will shrink by 13 to 30%, according to WTO. We mainly export to the EU, and their imports will be slashed by around 20%. And when you look at other economic actors, their growth estimates have been coming down. There have been many revisions for the United States. After 32 and 46, they will be experiencing their lowest numbers. Around 6% shrinkage is what the US is going to experience. When you look at 5,000 top countries around the world, their revenues will go down by 30%. Our objective is to make sure that our country can weather this storm as unharmed as possible, and we need to join hands to do that. We have gone through many trials and tribulations as a nation in the past, and we have strengthened ourselves in the process, and hopefully we will do the same for this crisis. And our ministers of treasury and finance and commerce have been talking to you, and Mr. Chair also mentioned that they have been organizing ministerial meetings and will continue to do so. And I believe that this is of paramount importance. As the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, allow me to explain to you what we have been doing so far. One, first of all, we believe that it is important that free trade should continue in an unceased fashion. That's very important for Turkey's economy. We need to make sure that a rules-based approach, a liberal approach, should be maintained, and international supply chains should not be disrupted. Cargo traffic should not be disrupted, and we are working as Turkey and as Ministry of Foreign Affairs to make sure that is the case. As G20, as a G20 member, IOC member, Turkey Council member, there are so many multilateral platforms, and we do our best for these decisions to be taken. Another platform, MIGDA, within G20, that encompasses South Korea, Mexico, and Australia, and we are increasing our visibility day by day. And the International Coordination Group is again another platform within G20, and it was organized by Canada And then we reached out to non-G20 members, and the 10th meeting was held 2 days ago, and we believe that this is going to be a very effective mechanism. We have been discussing coronavirus, commerce, visa issues, and evacuation of citizens, and so on and so forth. And we have taken some decisions, and we have been sharing experience as well. And hopefully, we will make this a much better functioning platform. Secondly, we believe that international transportation should continue undisrupted. We are working tirelessly for that. Our TIR truck drivers had some problems in terms of visa acquisition. We have been dealing with EU countries and Council of Europe to fix this problem. Last week, there was a problem at the Germany-Austria border. Some of our truck drivers were not permitted into Austria because their visa had expired. And thanks to our ambassador in Vienna, we made sure that our trucks were actually permitted into Austria. But um, this is just a recent example. Um, and also Caspian transit and middle corridor for it to be used better. We have had high level. Our president attended the Turkey Council meeting on the 10th of April, and very important decisions were taken. And G20 hopefully um, will be another platform where we raise these issues. Our minister and our president actually um, participated in talks within G20, and ministers of treasury, tourism, and health actually get together quite frequently, and they take important decisions, and they work on action plans. And especially for least developed countries, we need to provide support. And Mr. President also mentioned the importance of this, and we are working towards this. As Turkey, we remain very sensitive about this, especially about Africa and least developed countries around the world. And you know closely how we take this seriously. And fourthly, normalization after pandemic, tourism and travel will be very important, and there will be a competition, obviously, in the region. And for Turkey to get a big chunk out of this pie of tourism, we are working closely with our Minister of Tourism and Culture. You were actually on the phone just an hour ago, and he sends his regards to you as well. And he actually sent letters to 70 countries, and we prepared these letters together. We drafted them together. And I'm also talking to my counterparts. Our Minister of Tourism also is talking to his counterparts. He had a phone call today with his German counterpart. I talked to Mr. Lavrov previously, and I also talked to the Finnish Minister of Foreign Affairs today, and he is quite ready to cooperate. Our president also talked about this with Chancellor Merkel. And Heiko Maas, the German Minister of Foreign Affairs, hopefully we will get together. We will have a video call as soon as possible to discuss this issue. But we should not limit this effort to these countries only, and not just to Europe, but we need to look at other countries around the world, and we need to talk to their ministers of tourism and their foreign affairs to coordinate these efforts. Fifthly, we need to continue supporting our investors abroad for investments that amount more than 50 million dollars. We believe that these add to our reputation, to Turkey's reputation, and this is very important for us, for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, for our ambassadors, for our consuls general, for our missions across the world, because these investments create jobs, and for Turkey's soft power, this is very important. That's why we need to keep a close eye on all the Turkish investments around the world. We will continue to support them, and I'm sure that you are aware of what we have been doing as a ministry. We have been telling all our ambassadors to support Turkish investors, keep an eye on the tender processes, and every time I talk to our ambassadors when we have conferences, we cover these issues. and every new consul general or ambassador that starts working in a new country are kindly reminded about the importance of this. And a short while ago, we had a series of video conferences, and we also asked them to focus on this area. In the post-COVID-19 world, um, um, there will be many items on our agenda in terms of import and export, in terms of investments. There will be some great opportunities as well, and we need to look into these as well. And as we receive these reports, we will be sharing these with you, hopefully, and we are always in close contact anyway. And sixthly, in order to overcome this crisis, um, we also believe the importance of giving a makeover to our customs union with the EU. And also, we need to talk about revitalization of tourism, visa liberalization, and creating jobs in the service industry. There will be greater needs emerging in the EU as well. So, Schengen, for the Schengen zone, we are working for a visa-free travel, and our president has been talking to his counterparts, and I am also in touch with my counterparts to make sure that we can get this done. And in terms of reinvigorating our relations with the EU, I think this would be to the benefit of both parties. We are decisive about this. With the new administration, I think we have much warmer relations compared to the past. And the High Representative Borrell is we are actually working to revise the 18th of March memorandum. Mr. Chair and dear participants, dear members, I also think it important that we need to talk about our future strategies. Let's get one thing straight. Post COVID-19, the world will be a new world, and we need to adapt ourselves to this new world. Nothing will ever be the same, and concentrations of power will change, and in the multilateral international order will change. These things will happen. We're talking about normalization here, and we are working towards normalization. And yes, that's important, but a new normal is also emerging, should also be emerging. New realities will be surrounding us. In the last couple of years, there have been some single-sided approaches, and there have been some tensions and trade wars between the U.S. and China, and on supply chains. This has been causing negative impact, and uh, we believe that some of these tendencies will become much more pronounced, and locality and subsidiarity will perhaps become much more important. And in sectors, we will feel this in chemistry, aviation, machinery, and automotive sectors. And this pandemic has also shown that too much concentration in production is not such a good thing. So states, countries, and multinationals will look into alternative production means in the post-COVID-19 world. For many countries and companies, costs are important, but also geographical proximity will become much more important compared to the past. In terms of medical supplies, this is important, yes, but for other products as well, for the supply of other products, this is equally as important. That's why Turkey needs to focus on its geographic proximity and be much more integrated into the supply chains in the neighboring countries and regions. In the upcoming period, in order to attract new investments, we need to work together. There are certain industries where we are strong, and for companies whose main markets are Europe and Africa and Middle East, they would do well to invest in Turkey, provided we support them, incentivize them. This will and this can happen. And in terms of Italy, and in Italy, in France, in Spain, these countries were impacted terribly. If this is opportunism, then so be it. Um, these and China, China is being questioned as well due to their shortcomings, and none of these were our own doing. So what we need to do is we need to make the best use of the current situation, and we have always maintained a humanitarian foreign policy, and our coronavirus policies will yield fruits. 130 countries asked for medical supplies from Turkey, and there are 193 UN members. So, nine, out of all the countries in the world, two-thirds, more than two-thirds, actually asked for medical supplies from Turkey, and this is something that makes us proud, and this is a testament to the fact that nations across the world trust us. We have sent aid to countries such as the UK, Germany, the US, Italy, Spain, our allies. These are great nations, and they ask for our help and support. We have exhibited this spirit of cooperation, and this has added to Turkey's strength and its reputation. And there was a misconception about Turkey before this pandemic, a lot of disinformation about Turkey. And in the Western media outlets, you saw great prejudices. But for the first time, you read so many positive articles about Turkey. Of course, this does not solve everything, but we see the emergence of a positive atmosphere, and we need to build on that. Turkish citizens living abroad, they suffered some negative reactions, and now that has gone down. And also, some of our companies operating outside Turkey, some of whom are your members, they have been producing masks and distributing them to healthcare professionals and to law enforcement officers, and meals cooked at Turkish restaurants are being distributed to essential workers. And again, this is changing the perception of Turkey vis-a-vis the citizens of these countries. We're not doing this to add to our reputation. We're doing this for humanitarian purposes, and because we have a good conscience. After the pandemic comes to an end in healthcare industry, in tourism, we've talked about that, in agriculture, food, and construction, there will be many cooperation opportunities. And our companies should benefit from these opportunities. And in order to ensure that is the case, we need to look into these opportunities. We see these opportunities, analyze them as the government, but you are actually in a better place to gauge these opportunities. And I know that you are engaged in your preparations to do this. Mr. Chair, dear members, with the now that the pandemic, or when the pandemic is under control, we believe that our rebound as Turkey will be quite quick. As we overcome these burdens, we should also identify opportunities and seize the opportunities. We have a unique position in the world. We have a young population in production logistics. We are dynamic, and we have proximity to large markets. And in the new global order, Turkey will have substantial advantages. Everything that we do will be based on a spirit of cooperation between the government and the private sector. And I think that Foreign Economic Relations Board, DEİK, will play a very important role in all of this as well. We believe in you, we believe in your entrepreneurship, and in the upcoming periods, hopefully we will achieve even greater things together, and we are ready and willing to make your lives easier. We will continue to work tirelessly day and night. Our ministry, our missions across the world will be at your disposal in the upcoming period as well. And hopefully, we will weather this storm together and overcome this crisis together. And we will overcome this storm, this crisis, in an even stronger fashion. Thank you, and I'd be happy to answer your questions. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Mr. Minister, thank you. Thank you very much for your remarks. And allow me to say this. Well, thank you so much for your trust in us. We will continue with questions, but before that, I have a question for you. But this part will be close to the press, and you have talked about the importance of being human.
Elbette zaman zaman politikamız eleştirildi de salgın döneminde ise çalışmaları biraz önce dinledik. Hem süreç yönetimimiz hem de yardımlarımızda bir damga vuruldu. Şimdi ise bir takım yerlerde süreçten dış politika anlamında da güçlenerek çıktığımız konuşuluyor. Bunun fırsatlarına biraz değindiniz ama bir miktar daha girebilir miyiz? Bir taraftan da salgın sürecinde özellikle Avrupa ülkeleri arasında farklı kırgınlıklar var, serzenişler var. Böylesi bir dönem yine buraya girdiniz. Bizim Türkiye'nin Avrupa ile ilişkileri ki üyelik müzakereleri, gümrük birliğinin güncellemesi, vize serbestisi konusunda